Hi and welcome to the Homeopathy Health Show. I'm Atiq Bhatti, a fourth generation homeopath with over 25 years of professional experience and practice in this field of healing. The Homeopathy Health Show is the online voice of homeopathy around the world, promoting and raising awareness of this truly unique system of healing, which is suitable for all ages, young and old. Every week I invite guests from the world of homeopathy to come and share their experiences, their work, offer insights, and essentially talk all things homeopathy. Why not visit www.liketreatslike.co.uk and click on the radio and podcast button to listen to the latest episodes. So let's begin today's show here on UK Health Radio, the world's #1 talk health radio. Hi, welcome to another episode of the Homeopathy Health Show here on the UK Health Radio Network, and I'm Atiq Bhatti.
And I'm Naila, Cheema, your co-host.
Woohoo! Another absolutely fantastic episode. So happy to welcome back my returning guest, Dr. Jan Scholten. We all know very well Dr. Jan's name. I think he's an absolute legend in the world of homeopathy, and the material and the research and the work that Dr. Scholten has done is so profound, and we all use it, right? We all use the periodic table of elements, which Dr. Scholten has so eloquently, so beautifully, and so scientifically used as the base template to link homeopathic remedies upon, so the psychological aspects and the physical themes. And it's just so brilliant. But it doesn't end there, because Jan is also the author of several books, as we all very well know: Homeopathy and the Elements, Cure is Freedom, Homeopathy and the Minerals, and of course Secret Lanthanides, which I have been told are not just autoimmune remedies for autoimmune conditions, but also very applicable to homeopaths, as us, as healers, as those who love to serve humanity. And we did discuss this actually in episode 83, which was called Cure is Freedom. So do check that out on all the podcast platforms at ukhealthradio.com, and well, just Google it actually, and you'll come up with it. Cure is Freedom, Homeopathy Health Show. So without further ado, I welcome the legendary, the wonderful, and ever so young Dr. Jan Scholten. So from myself and Naila, welcome, and a virtual hug to you.
Thank you.
I would like to give a disclaimer. If I'm not talking too much today, please apologize, because I'm having a big fan moment. I'm a big fan of Jan Scholten, and I love the periodic table. Your creation is always on my desk. Your periodic table is always on my desk, and I'm always like, even if it is a plant, animal, mineral remedy, I'm still always referring to it, because it is so nicely laid with all the themes over there. Everyone needs to have this on their Element Theory by Jan Scholten. If you don't have this, please get it.
And we were talking about commercials, yeah, when we thanks, Naila, that was brilliant. Before we go into the topic or the subject matter, I suppose, for today, which is to do with ferns, your amazing research on ferns and autism, we wanted to actually take this moment to honor you and to respect you and to show our gratitude as hosts of the Homeopathy Health Show, but for all homeopaths, as the Homeopathy Health Show is the voice of homeopathy on certainly on radio and on podcast platforms. So from all the homeopaths out there, from all those that use your work day in, day out, we absolutely are so grateful for what you do, the time, the dedication, the hours, the decades that you have committed to serving humanity through homeopathy. And your work is incredible. And I tell you, Jan, from both of us, it makes such an amazing difference to people. So we thank you for that.
Thank you.
But it's also how it starts, because all my new discoveries are coming from patients that I couldn't help the old ways. And then I started looking for other possibilities. So it's also for me, I try to cure everyone that comes to me. Of course, that's impossible, but I can try. And by broadening our knowledge of remedies, the amount of remedies, but also the depth of remedies, we can cure more people, and I can cure more people.
It's when I don't, and I don't want to embarrass you, certainly not, but because I'm in that, certainly in that moment. But when I look at you, I see hope because of the work that you do.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a big thing, right? That's a huge, huge thing. So again, from Naila and myself, and from all the homeopaths around the world, and the students of homeopathy who are just getting that periodic table of elements, and they're looking at it and they're thinking, oh my God, what is this? What is that? How am I going to make sense of this? But as the years go by, they're able to use the columns and the rows, and they know which series to go for, and then they know which stage somebody is in their lifetime, and then they're able to then link up remedies. I mean, that's just genius, and it's so beautiful, and it's so interesting because you start with something and you think, I don't understand this. This is too much. It's too complicated. You just carry on a bit longer. You have some patience and you think, carry on, and it just starts to make sense itself. You don't have to try, isn't it?
Yeah, and in the end, you understand much more remedies. They're more, when I started with this, a lot of the homeopaths said, but 100 remedies was already too much. 1,000 is impossible. But
Yeah.
for all the classification, it's not possible. It's even easier.
Yeah.
That's so
Yeah.
rightly said. I really picked up on one thing. I would like to take this moment to pay our gratitude to all the patients who come to homeopaths because they have decided not to go one way, but they have tried and have given their confidence in us so that we can help them. This is very, very important in today's world, that they have confidence in us, and then we do whatever is in our hands to help them. And you have very beautifully said that. Thank you to each and every patient who has walked into our doors, who has clicked on our Zoom links. Thank you.
Yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
I think most of the patients come because they heard from family or friends that helped very well. So the better and the more people we can help, the more new people will come.
Definitely, yes.
I
All
think,
our purpose is to just help.
Yeah,
That's why we are here.
yeah.
This is what gives us that feeling that we take to our beds, we sleep peacefully because I've helped someone, we have helped someone.
so moving on from that, I have a question for you, which we discussed offline, which is that you have in the last episode, we touched upon ferns and that you were doing some research on ferns and autism, and you called them autistic ferns. And I must say, you have a new book out, which is called Autistic Ferns. And I really wanted to sort of go into a bit more depth into that. For those listening, Naila and myself we're very much interested to ask you about what led to that? What led to this link? What was your thought process about ferns and the evidence that links it back to successful treatment of people on the autistic spectrum? Was that something organic? Did it just happen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It started. I started about 5.5 years ago with first ferns, and we did a proving seminar with the group. And of course, then you have some ideas, but in that same period, I got quite a lot of autistic children, and also children who didn't speak, only in their own world, and I couldn't help them very well. But there was some case that I know the symptom, that he loved water, and he was very good in swimming, and even underwater, swimming under the water. And that's a symptom that we had in one of the provings of the ferns. So I tried it on him, and he did very well. And in the beginning, I forgot that it was a fern. Later on, I thought, oh, I've given a fungus, but then I looked it up and I thought, a fern. But then it suddenly got to my mind, but maybe that's something essential, for those kind of children. And because he had many of them, I started experimenting with them and searching them, and they from time to time there were very good results. And but in the beginning we didn't have many, ferns in the past was Lycopodium, Felix mas, Pteridium, and that's it. So, but then we had already a few from the provings, and we did more provings on ferns. So gradually it started expanding. And but it was a whole process, a 5 years process. And now I prescribe it. In principle, I think mostly for the ferns when I have those autistic children who are retarded and don't speak and don't do well at school, etc. Can also be spiders and insects, but ferns are the first to think of for me.
You said something very interesting. You're going to laugh at this, but honestly, we were having a conversation last night about a patient who loves water. So I'm going to ask you the name of that fern because that needs more research, right, Naila?
Yeah,
Yeah, but in the beginning I thought it was a very specific symptom, but a lot of those ferns have it.
Okay, brilliant.
Okay,
So
good.
it was lucky that it worked, but it was not a very specific symptom. It looked very specific, but but the remedy I gave him was Hemionitis palmata.
Okay, good luck with writing that one down. You'll find it in Kejur, isn't it?
Yeah, it's no, I don't. Not everything is yet on Cure. I have to update it and upload it.
Okay.
I have to reformat it a bit for the Cure.
I have to say, I love your website. I just love your website. Cure is my first reference when I'm searching something on internet. It's my first reference website. It's very nicely made. Anyone who has not come across this and is studying homeopathy, we're not talking commercials, but needs to go to this website.
This is you know where this is going, Jan. Next, I'm going to be talking about your book now.
Good.
And then they need to purchase this book as well.
And why not? Absolutely.
Why not?
So, Jan, I was going to ask you, when we talk about the autistic spectrum, and sadly it's becoming very, very prominent now with children, everyone is talking about the causa causalis, and it could be this, it could be that, it could be vaccines, it could be chemicals and pesticides, it could be lifestyle, it could be miasmatic influences. What do you have to say about that? Or is there nothing to say and it's almost like, well, this is the presenting case and let's move forward and sort it out?
No, although things can have an influence, I haven't seen direct connections with pesticides and herbicides because, it's pervasive. So it's not really, when a child came in contact with that pesticide, he got autism. But with vaccinations, quite a few of those stories, the parents tell me, it started after that or that vaccination. But I think that's not the basis of it. They are the triggers. Because when the vaccination would be the only cause, why wouldn't all children get it then?
Yeah.
So my experience is has to do with very basic traumas. And it can be in this life, like a parent who died at a very young age, or a mother left by their friend when she was pregnant because they were quarreling about it. All those kind of really traumatic events, and then also made a connection with Gabor Mate, where he describes those early traumas in life, in children's lives. And there has been a study, and they called it adverse child experiences. And in their survey, they found that the more of those things happened in a child's life, the bigger the chances of getting autism, of getting ADHD or ADD, alcoholism, drug abuse, criminality. It's a kind of that they are out of order, that they are so traumatized that they cannot really normally behave anymore. And that's where the cause is. But the cause can also be further away, because I also discovered that of course, in a lot of cases it was not clear, but that traumatic experience with the parents or the grandparents could also be of influence. and especially real traumatic experiences like war traumas and those kind of things. And, you know, a lot of those cases, there were stories of the Second World War where I just prescribed the story to prescribe the remedy, to make the choice of which remedy, which fern to choose. So for me, it's a confirmation that it's really, because the aspects of that story were the same as the aspects of the fern. So there's really that kind of thing. And it can, of course, also be, past lives. You know, I think a lot of people think that reincarnation is something stupid and, you know, a very old-fashioned idea that's already scientifically proven that it is not the case, but there's nothing proven, you know. It's difficult to prove reincarnation, but it's just as difficult to disprove it. And sometimes you can use those stories also. You can prescribe on that too.
It's amazing, isn't it, as human beings, that the energies that we carry and generations of different types of energy. And it's so true when it says it, sometimes it can skip, isn't it? It's almost like you choose to forget. And then later in the generation, it's like walking into a room and you turn the light switch on. It just so happens that you're susceptible to that memory or that imprint. And it turns you on, right? It turns on, as in, it, you know, the manifestation starts, right?
And one of the typical things of those ferns is in those children, and the children is, of course, when they're like that, is that they don't even know it. They don't know the trauma.
Yeah.
Because it's so early or so hidden or hidden in the stories of the parents, but often they never tell you.
Yeah.
Or then they tell you, my grandfather was in Russia in captivity. What happened? Yeah, he never told about it.
Yeah.
So that hidden aspect is also very strong in those cases.
I'm thinking, because we as homeopaths, we really delve into pregnancy history, what has mother gone through, what were the experiences of the mother during that time. But this is very profound, that what has the father experienced or the father of the father experienced, and he might have passed it on. Or it might have skipped the generation and passed on to the second generation.
Yeah.
That
can happen.
That is really, really profound. So it means like the person who is on this special spectrum, he has a different life. So what he is trying to do is he's trying to find his trying to find his identity, and he's just, his life is revolving around this identity, and he's not getting out of that circle and just cannot move forward.
Yeah, gradually I started thinking about more what's really the essence of ferns. And it has very much to do with what Gabor Mate describes as the conflict between authenticity and attachment. So, yeah, you can make it more general, but in general, what he says is, you know, every child wants to be himself. He wants to be authentic, wants to be what he is. But then, of course, when he is forced to do things, or by beating or by whatever, then, you know, he does what is wanted, because otherwise he loses his parents, and that's too dangerous. You know, you can, as a child, you cannot lose your parents. So then they adapt. But then what happens is that they are not authentic anymore, which feels terrible. And what they do then, they suppress that pain. And they forget it. Otherwise, it's you cannot live with it. And there's also a nice book of Arno Grün. They're all in my book because they're very essential for it. And that title of that book, the title of the book of Gabor Mate is The Myth of Normal. And normal is a very strong word for ferns. But Arno Grün calls it the insanity of normality.
Wow.
It goes a step further. And both are psychotherapists, and Arno Grün was very much interested in the Second World War. They were both survivors of the Second World War. And he was thinking, how can it be that people behave as they did in the Second World War? What's the crazy thing of it? You know, how can you put people in a concentration camp
Yeah.
or just shoot them down for nothing.
Mm.
And he describes that suppression of yourself, and that gives such much pain that you start getting the idea that there's something wrong with you, that you start condemning yourself, and that you start hating yourself when it's the worst. But it's unknown, it's subconscious, it's suppressed. And then what you do then, that hatred comes out in the violence to others.
Mm.
It's
That's
projected onto others.
Wow.
And
so.
that's also a form of discrimination. It is also a form of that aspect. You know, you feel not good yourself, and then you say the others are not good.
It's
So,
your projection or towards the world.
Yeah,
That how you are feeling inside, you're actually thinking
yeah,
that is what is happening in the
yeah,
outside world.
yeah.
That is profound, because sometimes I have been questioning what makes people do whatever they do and what is the normal. Maybe my normal is not your normal and is not
Mhm.
the third person's normal. So where does this normality begins? And where
Yeah,
does it
that
end?
begins with not feeling good yourself.
Yeah.
And that's because you're forced to do something which what you are not.
Mm.
And that's the norm. So you have to adapt to society, to the norms of society, and you're not allowed to be yourself anymore.
This is what is happening a lot nowadays after
Hmm.
this
Hmm.
lockdown and COVID era, where I'm seeing this more and more in teenagers,
Hmm.
that they don't connect with themselves, they don't identify themselves with themselves,
Hmm.
and they want to be
Part
someone
of the
else,
group.
part of the group, and then they change. Even when they in the teenage years, when the I is developing,
Hmm.
who am I? The problems of looks and
Hmm.
acne, and will I be liked? Will I
Hmm.
be part of the group? Will I be left out?
Hmm.
All these problems arise, and when you're talking, like, it feels like this is all what ferns and the theme of ferns
Yeah,
encompasses, like the struggle to be merged with others.
yeah. And the typical thing of this is wanting to belong to the group is an Iron Series group, Iron
mm,
Series theme. And that's why the the desire to be normal is also an Iron Series theme. You know, they want to be normal. They don't want to be
mm,
special. Because then they belong to that group, and the next village is the other bad guys, and then you start get discriminating, and you're not
mm,
allowed to marry a girl from the other village,
mm,
and things like that because they are bad. They are barbarians. They're catters. They're or kafirs or whatever you want to call them. You know, all those words are doing the same. You
mm.
know, making them less, and you have to do that because you feel less yourself.
It's like being in a cage, isn't it?
Yeah,
An iron cage.
yeah. And of course, that can also be in other groups, but the typical thing of ferns is there is no reflection on it.
Mm,
They don't see it for themselves. And that's the quality of lanthanides and the gold seers. They have reflection for the first time.
right.
That's why angiospermae, they can have similar problems, but they handle it differently. But with the ferns, it's rigid. There is no question.
Right.
And that's what we saw in the Corona time. You know, there were rules. You had to follow the rules. And when you start discussing it with them, yeah, but those rules, you know, they make no sense. You have to follow the rules.
Mm.
Yeah, you have to. And otherwise, this will happen, or that can happen, or this
Yeah,
may happen, you know?
yeah, even when it was nonsense.
Yeah,
And when you brought arguments that it is nonsense, they wouldn't want to listen to it.
yeah,
In
absolutely.
Holland, in the beginning, the doctor said, you know, the cover of your mouth, those things don't work. But then after half a year, they changed it. And then
Mm,
everyone was saying, you know, we have to have it. But it was obvious that it didn't work.
mm,
And then that quality of no discussion, no the rule, that's it,
mm.
normal.
I wanted to just touch go back and touch upon what you said about being not knowing who you are. And remember, when we did Cure is Freedom,
Yeah.
and we spoke about who am I, and we spoke about in your book Cure is Freedom, you've so masterly written about personalities and layers. It's
Hmm.
interesting, isn't it? Because that means that the child within, let's say somebody is on the spectrum, the child within, or even the adult within, is so masked behind superficial personalities. Is that right? Because of the presenting symptoms, because of what has come down the lineage.
Yeah, they don't understand it,
Hmm.
where it's coming from.
Yeah.
And uh, maybe another example, which is also in the book, is very nice, was a man and he had problems with his wife. And he wanted to have more sex than she wanted to have.
Hmm.
But then he said, yeah, but she has to do that because she is my wife. She's my property.
Okay.
And then
Hmm.
he gave a remedy, and then he realized that it was a fake idea, and he let it go, and he had a better relationship with his wife.
Hmm.
So that fixed idea is very strong. There was no reflection on it. It had to be like that. It came
Yeah.
from a religious background and the culture, etc. So that's also a norm in the group.
Mm.
Hmm. It's fascinating, isn't it? How that my this is leading me on with what you've just said is how when you got to the proving stage,
Hmm.
that took some time, isn't it? I think I remember you said it took quite a lengthy time. Am I right? To prove the ferns.
No, we did it in first we did it a few days with the
Okay,
group, and then we
right,
did it a week with another group, and then with another group for a week, and
right.
it's gradually expanding, but over the years.
Mm.
Amazing. And those sensations and that actual proving itself of the ferns, and how did that leave people afterwards? The post-proving period after a month or two. Were those feelings still there? Did you
No,
meet up regularly to discuss what
yeah,
the
but
remnants were?
the most what we do is sense provings. And sense provings is that you basically we do it one morning, yeah, with a group.
Right.
And then we have the fern in front of us and we taste it, see it, smell it, and then meditate on it and start getting feelings. But sometimes people had a day or, that it works further, but not longer, in
Hmm.
my experience.
Amazing. Just amazing, how this something like this has come about. And I have to say, ladies and gentlemen, that we are going to be talking a bit later about the book. Dr. Jan Scholten has the new book, which is called Autistic Ferns, and it's a must for all homeopaths um, and any avid reader, to be honest, because homeopathy, to be perfectly frank and honest with you, is a progressive science. It's a
Mhm.
progressive art. It's always going to be there. There is no way it's not. It's always going to be there, and in fact, it's going to become um, more and more widely used. We can see that. We can feel it. This is the time for homeopathy. Um, so please do check out that book. But we will talk about that later. Over to you, Naila. I know you
Yeah.
want to ask something.
I was about to ask because you were talking about fixed ideas and iron series, and I was just wanted to have an idea, where do you see them, if in your periodic table in your class or phase system? Where do you put ferns?
They are basically for iron series,
Their ferns are iron
but
series.
that's the highest level they have.
Hmm.
But there's
Ah,
often also carbon series, especially when those autistic children who are retarded, it's often carbon iron series together with carbon series.
yeah, I was actually, this is very interesting because I was thinking about autistic children and when they are trying to survive, because as
Mm-hmm.
so nicely mentioned, they adapt because you cannot live with it, with
Mm-hmm.
the situation, so you adapt. They are adapting, so I exist barely, or I am hidden. That is very carbon, nitrogen, that area in the
No,
periodic
it's iron series together with carbon.
with
You
carbon.
hide your pain of feeling lonely and not supported, the crying baby. And there was an educational aspect some 10 or 50 or 100 years ago. Let them cry, otherwise you spoil them. But when you look at it from the point of the feeling of the baby, he feels totally deserted. And and in the beginning, you would expect that the child expects by itself that the parent will come, the mother will come. And often mothers felt that, but they had to restrain themselves because it was a better education to not to come. Whereas inside, they felt something totally different.
Mm.
But what happens that it was the baby, you start thinking, oh, there's something wrong with me, or I'm totally alone. But then they cannot live with it, so they suppress it and they get an iron cage around them as if nothing is happening.
Mm.
And that's the normality, the insanity of normality.
It's so profound. Just thinking, I'm a mother myself, thinking about my child is crying and it's not right. Let him cry for 5 minutes and then go and console it. And then next time, let the child cry for 10 minutes. They need to learn that they need to console themselves.
Yeah, but they did it often for hours. The child was totally exhausted and fell asleep, but not because they were sleepy, but because they were exhausted.
That's yeah.
That's insane.
That's insane. That's insane trauma. Cannot have it. You get these hormonal rushes when your child cry for a reason. It
Mm,
has to be there. That's why the mothers, yeah, I can talk about it for hours, but yes, this is a trauma that carries forward. This is
mm,
a trauma that can lead to many, many things.
mm,
Mm.
Moving back to ferns themselves and your experience now having conducted the provings and now they're readily available, I believe. Yes.
mm.
What do sort of inspire us is really what we're trying to get at is what successes have happened and how you find them adapting to the needs of those who are on the spectrum.
Yeah, but it's not only autistic people, it's much more pervasive.
Hmm.
You know, very many people, they live for the form and they express for the form. They don't show themselves anymore because it's dangerous to show yourself because then you get criticized.
Hmm.
That's the iron series quality. What will the others think of me?
Hmm.
And then having a straitjacket. But a very good example of of ferns is soldiers,
Okay.
in the army.
Yeah.
You just have the first thing you learn in the army, you just have to obey. Don't think. Just obey.
Yes. Yes.
And that's fern.
Mm.
Don't think, just obey. So it's very hierarchical, The bosses, they can do with you what they want. You have to become a robot, like a soldier,
Yeah.
a machine that kills and that obeys the people who say what to do.
And a machine that actually knows how to or is programmed to over time totally suppress emotions until
Yeah,
it's too late, and then you just go into PTSD
yeah,
and it's cyclic, isn't it? Destruction
yeah.
after that, isn't it? Totally.
And then the PTSD is also firm.
Yeah.
It's the same state, but then collapsed.
Yeah.
I'm having this vision now, seeing army, hundreds of people,
Yeah,
all look
marching. Boom,
same.
boom, boom,
They all
boom.
look same.
Yeah.
Everything is same. It's just the ferns. If a plane is full of ferns, they all look same.
Yeah,
No, yeah, they can confirm to each other there is no individual identity there. And as you so beautifully mentioned, that the highest level they can reach up to is the iron series.
yeah.
So if I am part of this community and if I am doing everything right,
Then I will be
that
accepted.
is, yeah, that I'm accepted and that is the life I want to live.
Yeah. And that's what you could see also, sometimes I see documentaries about Second World War, And then you see then 100,000 people standing there with their arms high and yelling for Hitler, all doing the same.
Yeah.
And that's why the forms are then so important, you know, the Hitlerjugend, the flags, the music,
The marching.
the marching, totally
Yeah.
the same, you know, very precise.
Yeah. Conformity.
Conformity. Yeah, to conform yourself
Yeah.
to the norms of the society.
So it's almost like you're saying, not yourself, I mean, as a conversation, but it's like, this is who I am, but I don't want to be this because of such. I need to conform. So I need to destroy my soul.
In a way, that's what they describe.
Yeah.
And of course, there's a positive side of ferns also, you know, that you do your job for the community and that you do it well, that you're nice and that you're friendly, etc.
Yeah.
But in the diseased part, it goes too far.
Mm.
You know, you're not allowed to do the essential things that are needed for you. You only conform.
Wow, it's so deep, isn't it? Yeah, and I'm always thinking, when you're talking about ferns and we talk about plant kingdoms and all
Mhm,
the kingdoms, and we were talking to Peter Terminello some time back, and we were talking about crystal structures, and
mhm,
and then we're talking about other remedies that are available, and it's
mhm.
just so profound, isn't it? And it's so beautiful, right? That nobody can patent nature. And that's what makes homeopathy progressive, because it doesn't
Yeah,
belong to anybody.
yeah, no,
Isn't it just something incredible that these there is a cure for everything in nature except for death, right? Everything is there, and it's just a matter of looking, isn't it? It's just a matter of taking some time and
yeah.
saying, here are the properties. It's just unraveling, isn't it? It's everything is just so it's incredible, incredible.
What comes to my mind now is a very nice case. Maybe it's good um, to tell her because it gives a lot of aspects of this.
Mm,
There was a woman, I think she was 60 or something like that, and she had been depressed her whole life.
mm,
And she was a bit, she couldn't really work. She had been in psychiatric hospitals from time to time. For a period, she was doing quite well because she was having a husband who supported her very well, but then he died as she fell back. And she was being in therapy with a homeopath, and you know, he retired, and then she sent her to me, and she was all the time, you know, phoning him. You know, it didn't help, and not as in an accusing way, in a very nice way, but desperate. You know, so she had to have a contact and a support all the time, and they took a lot of remedies over those years, and some helped a bit or temporarily, but not really. And but the problem was it came from being abused as a child by her father, being sexually abused at from 6 around, and or maybe earlier, I don't know. And later in puberty, she was raped by her friend that
mm,
she had then, you know, and that was the background. So but I had already quite some time. I didn't think of a phone for her, but later I started to understand them better. And I
mm.
thought, this is also childhood trauma. It's also a fern-like kind of state. And she didn't even know it very well. And even she forgot, you know, it came back because she was depressed and she was in psychotherapy. Then the memories came back. That's also a nice fern quality. Yeah? It's hidden. You suppress it because it's too hard to feel it.
Mm.
But it doesn't help. It makes it, in a way, as a child, it helps to survive, but it doesn't help to become a real free man.
Yeah.
So in the end, I thought, okay, there must be a carbon series. It started as a carbon, but it must be a fern. So I went to then the plant kingdom and then 422. So what the first is iron series and two times two for uh, carbon series. But then I thought it must be phase 7 because she's sexually abused. She's raped.
Mm.
And then you come to Selaginellacea, the Selaginella family. Yeah, that's 3, 4, 2, 2, 1, 7.
Mm.
And then I asked her, how did you react when your father, when you was raped, or when your father was, abusing you, etc. I even didn't go to the details. I don't know if he even raped her or just was just touching her or whatever. It doesn't matter.
Mm.
But she said, I was frozen. I couldn't do anything. I just was paralyzed. So I thought, okay, that's just stage 2. You cannot do anything. So, and in the proving, we had proven sometime before the Siligonellas. And then the stage 2 had Siligonella crowsiana. So I gave her that. I've given her before, I think already 15 remedies that did something, but not really. And each time she was phoning me also back. But then after 2 weeks, she phoned me back. And I thought, oh my God, there it goes again. But 2 weeks was already long. Most of it was within a week. But then she phoned me and said, it's so strange, she said, with this remedy. I realized with my depression that it came because I felt that I was a bad person. I was a bad person, that happened to me, that it was
Mm.
my fault.
Yeah.
And she said, and then I realized, but that's a stupid thought. And I let it go, and my depression was gone.
Wow.
Brilliant.
Brilliant.
So good.
And it didn't come back till now. And it's, I think, 5 months.
Mm. That's amazing. That brings us back to the childhood trauma, that they are meant to feel that they are not good enough, and then they confirm and become what you want them to
Mhm.
become.
Yeah, and there you see that her self-worth, carbon series, was destroyed, phase 7.
Hmm. Self-worth was destroyed, definitely. This also link does this also link to the cancer miasm as well, in a way.
I don't know, but she didn't have cancer.
No, but
Cancer is more stage 12, but it could be, but I don't know that.
it just there is a lot of suppression, and then there's also trauma there. That was just a thought that was coming. But
Amazing. Yeah, question for you on this on fern. So the applicability is obviously focused with your book is autistic ferns, but the applicability is quite vast in general, and it also, if I may say, it's so timely. This is so needed because so
Yeah.
much of the population is now, Jan, we have this we talk about conformity, but we have this state of humanity at the moment where, with all the world situation and the wars going
Mhm.
on, and it's the same regressive state,
Yeah.
isn't it?
When you think of it this way,
Mm.
when we don't resolve this kind of qualities, these are old, in a way, old traumas that are still with us.
Yeah.
It's in a way, it's also the theme of slavery. And slavery was huge all over the history.
Yes. Yes.
You have no say, you have to obey, you have to follow the rules. And that's what happens in wars too, you go to the army and you start fighting because you have to. But as long as we haven't resolved those old traumas, this has to happen to realize what's going on.
stuck in the past, basically, unless we unstuck ourselves,
Yeah,
the trauma is not going to resolve.
yeah. And also the case that I told, the
Mm.
woman was hiding her trauma for herself, but also for the community. You don't talk about it.
Mm. Mm.
It's scary, isn't it? What we're capable of becoming.
Yeah, but the
Uh,
beauty is, also I read up from Gabor Mate, and the idea of those childhood traumas, which is one aspect, is not everything because, it's also war traumas or whatever.
Yeah.
But then he says, a lot of psychotherapists don't even know this, but it's coming to more and more out, and then the book of Gabor Mate sold hugely in the world. So people started feeling that hidden quality makes it difficult to treat, and makes it difficult to address it and to know it. Um, And when it's too bad, then you get depressions where you often don't know where they come from. But when it's manageable, you can be quite well in society, but you're not really a loving person, loving for everyone, because you're hidden, you're in a straitjacket, you're limited, you feel not good, you're not normal.
You know, it reminds me of something which is to do with how when we talk about conformity and we talk about all these horrors and not knowing who am I, which we so discussed in the previous episode with you, and it's so hard, isn't it, sometimes to get to that root cause, the causa causalis, you know, those memories. It takes some effort, doesn't it? I mean, what's your, for those homeopaths listening and the students taking a case, listening to somebody, what's your guidance and what's your advice? How to get to that? How to persevere?
It's trying. Yeah, there is no guaranteed road. You try, with those children, I always ask, is there traumas in the family? Do you know something? Have they been in the war? Have they been soldiers? Do you know something what happened? But mostly also there, those traumas are hidden, The parents never talked about it. That's a typical answer.
Yeah.
And but it's there. But Gabor Mate was also a World War II trauma child. Was given away by his mother, not in a way to let him survive. But
I was thinking it's a form of escapism. Like, for example, if I don't get rid of that thought, it will be difficult for me to survive if I live with it.
yeah,
If I am blaming myself all the time of this happened to me because I am at fault.
yeah,
We try to escape from that thought, and what happens is it is still there in the background and is reshaping my future and is lingering on till I get that remedy that resolves that trauma, that actually goes back to the trauma and helps me get away from that carbon and let me live in my iron series where I can actually live a normal life.
yeah. But it can also be, the case that I told for the man who thought that his wife was his possession. They are prescribed a 444, so 3 times iron series, because it was fixed like that. It was normal. But beneath it was, in a way, he was very reserved. He hardly had friends and colleagues, because he had colleagues, but no contact with them, because he couldn't express himself. He was, in a way, autistic, but you wouldn't say to him that he was autistic.
Another form of escapism because he can't express it.
Yeah.
He's hiding it. It's again a
Yeah.
hidden
And what,
quality.
and what he was trying, he tried to feel love. But he thought it can only be with sex. But he didn't know that. But that's what he was doing. He wanted to be loved, but no one loved him. But he couldn't make contact. How can you love him? It's difficult for other people.
Interesting.
That's really, really interesting. Like they just adapt and understand or try to find the love in their own language.
Yeah, trying to survive.
Trying to survive. It's just a matter of survival.
Yeah.
How do I survive?
Do tell us
Fascinated. Just so fascinated by what goes behind it, what the effort that goes behind it, and then each and every patient teaches us so much about life.
Yeah. But there are also some physical clues that for especially with those autistic children, the more they are retarded, the more you go to carbon series. And there are some special things to think of carbon series. One is that those children who are very sensitive to crying, to sounds, and especially crying children, that's a carbon series symptom. Because they hear the inner child crying. and they cannot stand that.
That's very traumatic, isn't it? Even just the way you've just said that, to have to go through that, to have to live through something like that,
Yeah,
and to know it's happening as well.
yeah. But another thing is for the carbon series is they have problems with toilet training
Right.
in various ways. And then you see the carbon series that you have to learn to control your body, but they're so out of order, out of balance that they cannot do that.
Interesting.
Wow. That's really, really interesting and fascinating because I can think of cases where I've seen the themes of carbon remedies and I've given carbon remedies and they have got much better, but I feel like there is something missing. I need
Mhm.
to find something better that is more
Mhm.
more ex accurate, I would say, that
Mhm.
fits them better. I can't wait to
Mhm.
read your book. I think I can help more people with that.
Mhm.
The link with because I see these things, the crying issue, the toilet
Mhm.
training issue with those children.
Mhm.
Now the digestive disorders.
There can be,
Yeah.
can be. Later in life, it can also happen with, for instance, with elderly people when they get incontinence for urine. That's also
Hmm.
a carbon series quality. Everything that has to do with the pelvic region is carbon series.
Oh.
Interesting.
And
Very interesting.
that's the connection with the chakras. All the series have a connection with the chakra. And the carbon series has a connection with the pelvic chakra.
Fascinating. And where would we find more information on that?
Well, that's also, I think, in the book of Curious Freedom.
So, ladies and gentlemen, for those listening in, of course, as you know, we're talking about the current research that Jan is doing, but also do check out the book Curious Freedom. It is very, very profound, absolutely brilliant way to learn, especially about the layers and personalities and just the thought process that goes behind it and how homeopathy can, well, literally, I suppose it's actually written on the book, Cure is Freedom. So how it can free you from those shackles. And we've been talking about those shackles today, haven't we? Because being in an iron cage is literally being shackled,
Mm.
being closed off,
Mm.
and nobody can get in. It's unbreakable, unbendable, isn't it? So, yeah.
But it's a defense mechanism.
Yeah. Survival.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
when you don't follow the norms and they see your inside different from the norms, they will attack you,
Yeah.
as they do the strangers, how they discriminate others.
Wonderful. So your book is out
Yeah.
and it's available. Do share where people can get hold of it.
Well, it's available at Emrys and also at the Lonely Sauce. This is how it looks. Oh, sorry.
There we go. Oh my.
Wow.
Wow. 9, 12.
12,
Oh,
12
Wow.
different ferns. It's also to show that the ferns are very different how they look. And mostly we know the classical ones,
yeah.
but these are the many different forms.
Oh,
We can't wait to get our copy. Will you send me yeah, we are, and I am saying this during the recording. Will you send me the cover so we can promote it on
Okay,
socials?
I'll do.
If you send me a nice image
Yeah,
of it, and that would be nice to do, like I've done, well, like we've done before as well. So
yeah.
that would be nice. Um, Dr. Jan Scholten, it's always just such an absolute honor to have you on. And the reason we go quiet sometimes, and I've done it many times before as well, is because we just get lost in that thought process of the genius mind that is you, that is Jan Scholten, and what the
Mm.
things that how you think and how you're blessed with this vision and the
Okay,
inspiration that you receive.
everyone can do that. It's not mind knowledge. It's there. You only have to be open to it.
Yeah. And your humbleness as well.
Yeah, but that's true. I don't feel it as special. Yeah, I'm very glad with the knowledge because I think it can help a lot of people.
Hmm.
But in that sense, I see the value of it. But we can find everything, because that's where we come from the knowledge.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's where we come from the knowledge. That's absolutely amazing. Knowledge. I have like knowledge hungry. If you're knowledge hungry, if you want to learn, you will learn all your life.
Yeah.
It's been an honor to have you on, and hopefully we look forward to having you on again very soon, and we can talk some more. But until then, thank you so very much, and yeah, I just carry on, because you're an inspiration to thousands of people, thousands and thousands of people around the world. And I think this work, I congratulate you, Naila, and myself congratulate you on the publication of this book, Autistic Ferns, and may it go and help so many in humanity.
That's my wish too.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that's our wish as homeopaths, just to serve humanity, just to serve whoever walks in our doors.
Yeah. And maybe it can help to reduce wars.
Yes.
Hopefully, yes, we can just spread the ferns.
Yeah. Well, when you would treat that fern quality in all the people, there wouldn't be soldiers anymore.
We won't need them.
No, but there's no one who would like to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully.
Thank you so very much, and we'll talk to you very, very soon.
I'm honored and privileged today. Thank you very much.
My pleasure too.
I do hope you've enjoyed this week's episode of the Homeopathy Health Show. Please do support the show by clicking follow on my socials. Remember, the more exposure the podcast receives, the better for homeopathy around the world. You can find me on Instagram by searching for @like_treatslike, and on both Facebook and TikTok by searching for @like_treatslike. So let's promote the voice of homeopathy on radio and podcast around the world together. Don't forget to visit me online at www.liketreatslike.co.uk and click on the radio and podcast tab. Here you'll be able to see all the guests that have joined me on the show so far, and of course you can stream on demand the latest episode to your mobile, tablet or PC. Until next time, stay safe and take care.